Rodion Malinovsky. Malinovsky's men faced one of the most forbidding mountain ranges in Asia, the Greater Khingan. Their mission was to cross the Khingan with all their equipment and overrun the Manchurian plain. Reserved for trucks and tanks. The artillery and its ammunition had to be hauled by hand. Going down was as hard as climbing up. It took 3 days for the leading Soviet elements to cross and fall upon the astonished Japanese. The Kwantung Army resisted fiercely, but the Soviet armor soon broke into the plain. General Pliev, known as the Red Cossack. Pliev was famous as a cavalry commander who had raided deep inside the German lines. His mission was to march with Marshal Choibalsan's allied Mongolian cavalry unit across the parched earth of the Gobi Desert. Everything had to be carried with them: food, medical supplies, ammunition, and above all, water. Enough water for animals, machines, and 60,000 men. The latest news caught up with them en route. Pravda reported that the Japanese in Manchuria intended to fight even after the emperor surrendered. The Soviet princes met, but the Japanese did not give in. The Red Army had developed an extensive repertoire of techniques and used most of them in its campaign against the Kwantung Army. Mobile armored columns, paratroop drops ahead of the advance, massed artillery. It even ran its heavy tanks along the railroad tracks. It could muster overwhelming force against the Japanese wherever and whenever it chose. In mid-August, the Japanese regrouped. They were still full of fight. time, the Soviets encountered living mines, heroic Japanese soldiers who strapped explosives to their bodies and threw themselves under tanks. It was no easy victory for the Red Army. The Soviets launched a simultaneous operation against southern Sakhalin and the Kuril Islands. They came silently at night, with 60,000 men in 100 ships. The ensuing battles were savage and lasted for 3 long weeks. The Soviet Navy, meantime, closed 5 Korean ports, cutting off the Kwantung Army's escape route. The Navy put its Marines right on the piers, 10,000 of them. Airfields deep in Japanese-held territory were captured by direct beams. With fighter escorts, airborne troops were simply landed right on the fields, taking them almost before the defenses could report an attack. One of the captured airports, a Japanese transport had landed before the pilot realized his mistake. When the plane was finally brought to a halt, the door opened on none other than the Emperor of Manchukuo, Henry Puyi. Japan had already surrendered. some fanatical Japanese took off their uniforms, continuing to snipe at the Soviets. One by one, they were subdued. Had been smashed, their fortifications demolished, their pride humbled. By the time it capitulated on September 3rd, the Kwantung Army had lost 700,000 men killed, wounded, or taken prisoner.